Okay, all right.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
Okay, roll call. Everyone's present tonight. Approval of the agenda with additions to the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Go ahead, Rick.
With the additions, I had noticed that we don't have administrative correspondence, and we normally have that. And there was a few things that I would like to hear about. And something that had been brought up to the council, and I think we really need to have it on the agenda to discuss, is what we have happening is payments in lieu of the health insurance. We should really discuss that.
It's at the attorney's office right now. I'm waiting a response from them.
Okay.
Okay. We'll add administrator's correspondence probably down between 18 and 19, I guess, would be a good spot. All right, I need a motion to...
There's a motion and a second on the floor.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's right. Motion made and second to approve the agenda along with the additions. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion passes. Open forum. Anybody wish to speak?
I wanted to read something from a resident. He couldn't make it tonight. This was from Wayne Laudenbach that was speaking last month at the open forum. Said, Rick, thank you for the update. I reviewed the council minutes for the last year. It seems that some issues that get brought up don't get reviewed for several months. It's like they fall off the radar or something. I noticed with this with regards to our road, for instance, that referring to Pleasant Road. I would like to see old business listed on the agenda so it can stay in the minds of the council. Even if there is not much to report, I believe old business should stay on the agenda until it is completed. I told him I would read that for him.
Okay, thank you. All right, next item, approval of the city council minutes of March 16th.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion been made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion passes. Item 6, approval of bills paid.
I'll make a motion to approve the bills paid.
As presented?
As presented.
I'll second the motion of Mr. Simon.
Motion been made and second. Go ahead, Rick.
Few discussions on that. On page 4 of the check detail register, we have Tom Kramer, repairs, maintenance, supply, labor, garbage on 220th Street.
What check number, Councilman Tallman?
016731.
Cost when it's,
I can take that.
Nick.
We just, whenever garbage is reported on the side of the road, we usually head out and pick it up. Take it straight over to Kramer and drop it off. It's probably
You guys pick it up and pick
that's
it up.
probably about our 4th load this year.
I think that's the one I told you as we walked in the door about the
Okay.
TV.
The other one was garbage by Pleasant Lake. Was
Check.
that when the old city hall there for Pleasant Lake was redone? Is that the one you were, for garbage by Pleasant Lake?
No, well,
Do you have a check number?
It is 16771. Or is that just regular garbage pickup?
771?
16771, yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting there. That's the normal monthly bill.
Could I just ask Nick one thing? When the carpeting and that got done in the old Pleasant Lake City Hall there, was that garbage picked up by you guys then?
Nope. No idea what happened to it. We didn't pick it up.
Because I know there was some electric heaters and then there was just one cardboard tube from the carpet.
No, we didn't pick that up.
Okay.
I don't know what happened to it.
Mr. Chair, if I could just add, I believe that would fall under Park and Rec, and the Park and Rec Committee did not have a meeting last month, but if it was done just prior to Easter egg hunt, and they were refurbishing it, and so the Park and Rec Committee was pretty much orchestrating that, and I think if Gary or Lori Anderson were here, it would take care of what happened to it. I think Gary was going to take care of that, quite sure. So I'm speculating here, but based on what we talked about at a previous one, which is 2 months ago.
Yeah, I was just curious if we ended up paying somebody to come out to do that or, what was there. Okay, that's it.
Okay, motion been made and second to approve the bills paid. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same, motion passes.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, with the addition of the agendas, we skipped right by 4B, Rockfest Kathleen. Could we insert that at this point, Mr. Mayor?
Sure, go ahead, Kathleen.
Hello, everybody. How are
Hi.
you?
Good, how are you?
Awesome. Long time no hear. It's been, what, maybe 4 years? So I am coming in front of you because so many members from Rockfest, all of you, maybe not all of you, knew that for the festival, I used to coordinate it for, 10 years? And then we had a horrific tragedy in our city, which was my godson. So with that, my heart was no longer in it. However, with stepping down, I said that I would still assist on what I could. Well, Tootie, many times, came to me and said, Kathleen, we just need to bring the community together for that one day and celebrate what makes Rockville so special. Not only did Tootie approach me, but several people also did. And I said, you know what? I think you're right. And the reason why I felt so passionate about coming forward and saying we need to do something is because we are honoring our service men and women this year on an incredible memorial. And so that's very passionate to me, recognizing not only them, but also doing the right thing, and the right thing is to showcase our city. I believe we are still the 4th largest landmass city in Minnesota. We should be very proud of that. In addition to having that, we have an incredible agricultural base. We have 2 fabulous lakes. We have a river, we have a railroad, we have an awesome city. Within that city, we have great businesses, and we have community members like you and me. And you and me is what makes this city so special. And I love living in Rockville. And today I'm coming in front of you presenting a list of all the things that we have decided to showcase and bring back to Rockville. And with that, Tootie, many members from Rockfest Committee have approached several organizations such as the Lions Club, the Sportsman's Club, in addition to the church and the businesses, and they all want to get involved. Getting involved takes a leader, somebody as a cheerleader. So it's not that I'm saying I'm going to coordinate it. I'm saying I'm going to be a cheerleader for Rockfest like I was before. And I would appreciate the council members, those of you who's sitting in the audience today, those of you who serve at City Hall and work so hard to just for one day a year recognize how fabulous and the community members are of Rockville and celebrate what we should be celebrating and sharing with other adjacent communities that we have something special here within Rockville. So with that, I have a list in the back of all the great things we're going to do. And I'm encouraging those who would like to participate, please come down, contact me. I did start up the website. Again, it is www.rockvillerockfest.com. Showcases some great pictures. In addition, we will be putting the list of events out there and how you can get involved. Come and support it. Volunteer. Set up as a vendor. And setting up as a vendor because we haven't had Rockfest in a while like we used to. Remember, Dwayne, all the publicity and people and all of the wonderful things we used to have at the school? We're offering open to the vendors for free. So if you have something to showcase, you have something to sell, please contact me and we'll set you up. And if you're wondering where all of this is going to take place, this year we do not have church services. So that gives us the opportunity to put on the church grounds some of the things that we have wanted to in the past, but we just couldn't. We'll have a petting zoo, we'll have pony rides, we'll have the fabulous parade that Phil has worked so hard on. We'll have the tractor pull down here, we'll have many different types of vendors for food. In addition to that, fireworks, and the list goes on as you have there, and we would love those of you who have showed up today, grab the flyer back, or just log on to www.rockvillerockfest.com. So I'm standing in front of you, and you're probably wondering, what am I asking? Simply just to support it, and that is it. Any questions or comments?
Kathleen, just for everybody who might be watching, can you say the date?
Yes, the date would be helpful. We should celebrate every day, right? It is June the 4th. All events start at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and going to last through the evening with the fireworks at dusk.
Okay, great, thank you. That's, yeah.
I think I'm next on the agenda there, 20th Street closing. Okay, we need to close the street from Broadway along the side of the church, it's called Mill Street. Just close it up to, not even to 4th Street, which is like a half a block, because of the driveway, Gross's driveway comes out just before 4th Street. But just close the street from Broadway up to alongside the church. They'll still be able to get around, people from back there can go out the other way. Okay, that's what we want of you tonight. She forgot to tell you the theme of the parade is, or the theme of the Rockfest, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Is honoring community heroes. And that ties in with our monument for the veterans. And we do have a chairman, Ed Schutz, is going to do a display of veterans paraphernalia, or whatever you call it, memorabilia, I guess is what it's called, in the Parish Center too, some between 3 and 5. So there'll be anybody who wants to get in on that should let us know, because that would be really spectacular to go with our theme. We'd love to have the Black Hawk helicopter too, and we could get it free, but we don't know where we'd land it. The school is too far away this year at the school grounds, so unless we can land it on Skyhook, that's all we can do. Thanks.
Her request would take action.
Okay, I'll make a motion, we close Broadway from Mill Street to 4th.
I'll second that.
Motion been made second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same, motion passes.
Awesome.
And thank you.
Anything else from me?
No,
Okay.
it's
Well,
great.
thank you so much.
With those comments, okay,
Yep, go ahead.
yeah, with those comments, could we possibly look into what other cities do for their events if they take money from the general fund or, to help with these? Because I did attend that meeting that they had on Monday, and they're trying to do everything on a shoestring budget, and I think if we could find some funds from the city to help out with that, I think would be.
We would have to find state statute that explicitly states that we're allowed to do that, and there isn't one, but there are other ways that we can participate and help out, and we will explore those.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking with other cities, and now how they handle it.
In other cities, they provide city services at no charge, such as public works help was set up, or in my previous experience, there was police service that the city paid for, or law enforcement, extra law enforcement that the city paid for.
Member Tallman, I think years ago we did look at that, And I don't remember without going back and looking, but I think most cities, most of them were sort of that self-supporting, but with, I think, what Administrator Bodie was saying, so.
Okay.
Could you check into maybe Sauk Rapids? Carol Pittman had mentioned that Sauk Rapids does things a little bit differently, or did at the time, and has something to do with the overtime. Is that correct? You want to explain that? Because Carol was on that committee and checked into that for us.
As far as providing, like for the A1s or the temporary outdoor toilets, the overtime, the help that was needed, moving barricades and what have you. What I checked into it, what Sauk Rapids did was they just added it all into their general budget so that it was there.
I think that's what we said we could do, is the city side of the help, Public Works.
All right. Next item, consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, if I could remind you to please look at your additions to the agenda. There are 2 items that were added to the consent agenda.
Yep. So those are added under consent? Okay. So the other 2 items that were added under the consent agenda is acknowledging Tri-City Cable minutes of April 13th and approved temporary, what is that, 1 4-day
On sale
hideaway bar?
for Hideaway Bar on June 3rd and 4th. If you go to tab 7, you'll find the application in your council packet.
So what is that exactly does that mean, 1 4-day? Is that's a stated 4-day
That's a state,
license? Only
that's the
using it-
maximum state amount of time that you can have a temporary on sale.
He's using it for 2 days?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
And that includes those 2 items, 7.6 and 7.7?
Yes.
Okay, I'll second that motion.
Motion been made second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion passes. Item 8, Sheriff's Report. John.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. This will be a report for the month of March 2016. There were 38 contract hours, 14 citations issued. 7 of those were for speeding, 2 for no proof of insurance, 1 for driving after revocation, 1 for no valid Minnesota driver's license, 1 for a provisional driver's license violation, 1 for burning prohibited materials, and 1 was a combination of driving after revocation and no proof of insurance. Call types for the month, there were 2 911 hang-up calls, 1 attempted entry on Caroline Lane. They did not get in. We did some extra patrols of the residents until the residents were back. 4 alarms, no issue at any of those. The animal complaint where a property owner called in and said there was 2 dogs on his property. 20 minutes later called back and said they were gone now. The illegal burning, that was the citation that was issued. Somebody was having a bonfire and threw a couch on it. There was 1 DWI arrest where the citation didn't get entered for this report, but that was a citation with the driver arrested and booked into the jail. A couple of found properties, 1 was a purse after the fish fry, and then 1 was just a jacket where the individual was concerned because it had some cuts on it. The officer went out and looked at that, and they were just superficial cuts on the outside of the jacket. That was over in the park area. The fraud was a fake email that somebody apparently received from the mayor. No financial loss there, but they had come into City Hall to report that, and we had an officer come take a look at things. Identity theft, it was an individual who had some issues with their social security number and a check at their banking account. Again, no financial loss on that. Loud music was at the softball park. We didn't find anything when we got there. 4 medical emergencies. Property damage was a vehicle sitting along County Road 8, south of Eddie's down there. The suspicious activities and suspicious vehicles, looked at each of those, with no issues with any of those. 58 traffic stops. Several welfare checks for the month. 1 was a lady walking along Highway 23. We picked her up and gave her a ride. Another one was a 1057 male living on somebody's property who was fine when we checked on him. The last one was individual was concerned that his cat had been drugged. That individual was experiencing some of his own mental health issues, so.
Okay. Any questions? Thanks, John.
Just a couple of things, just from hearing the reports and stuff. I guess I'd request if you have a problem with somebody dumping garbage on the road, make sure that you're at least sending me an email on that, and we can put out an extra patrol alert for whatever section that might be occurring on. And then as far as the parade goes, typically for the parade too, I do send at least 4 officers down here, and I mean, there's no additional charge or anything for that to help out with the parade, so.
Great.
Thank you again. Item 9, Planning Commission. Bill.
Mayor, council members, we have 3 items on the agenda tonight. The first item is a rezoning request by a Robert and Teresa Mertz. Their address is 25077 County Road 138 here in Rockville. The request is to rezone 10.9 acre parcel from an R1 to an RR. They would like to raise cattle. Property contains about 10.9 acres, more or less. 6 notices of public hearing were sent out. This property is currently R1. Future land use map shows low density residential. The area has a 300-foot shoreline setback, which really doesn't come into play on this, but it does exist. A public hearing was set. Actually, their neighbor came and talked for them to do this, and they were all for it. The Planning Commission does recommend approval, but they must adhere to the animal unit guidelines set forth in the city.
I would make a motion to approve.
I'll second that motion.
Motion been made and second to rezone this parcel from R1 to rural residential. All in favor, say aye.
Could I interrupt here, Mr. Mayor?
What's that?
Could I interrupt again?
Sure.
With this motion, if we can be a little laxed on Robert's rules, could I ask you to make the motion would also include amending the city's comp plan and future land use map?
Okay. So I'll adjust my motion to include amending the comp plan.
I'll second it yet.
Okay.
Can you clarify that, Marty? What are you saying? You're changing the future land use map by?
Currently, the city's comp plan future land use map has that as R1. If you're going to rezone it to RR, then we need to change our comp plan as well. You don't want your comp plan in conflict with your current zoning.
All right. I guess my only concern is, are we just spot rezoning just one parcel, and what surrounds it?
You're going to be getting another rezoning application, probably by the next meeting, from the neighbor that is to the east, that he's going to be renting land from to put the cattle on. That land is currently zoned R1, and the other portion of his land is zoned light industrial.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he wants to put more cattle than what he would be able to put on this parcel itself.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, if I could just quickly, one other thing, if we could get Sue to add to her motion, that's to also include the Planning Commission recommendations, that is to consider approval must adhere to the county animal units. If that could be on the records, I think it's wise for us, because they're recommending body to include that, and if that's...
Yep.
And
I'd be happy to include that.
yes, and I think that's wise for us to have that, so that, because we're not the ones that jurisdict or have control of that, but it is county and it's a recommendation, so we as a council should include that. So thank you.
I know, I guess I feel a little uncomfortable that the Planning Commission may or may not have looked at whether a broader area should be rezoned to rural residential. I mean, I'm worried that we're just changing a parcel here and a parcel there versus whether we thought it through it. You know, we got a particular area that we've improperly rezoned as R1, and I guess if
These zonings came in when you did the annexation and you established these, and I think they were correct, but we didn't know what people might be doing in the future. As far as spot zoning, I still feel rather new to my position here, but it seems like historically that is what we're doing. If you go into my office and I have the zoning map up, you'll see that there are different areas that are rezoned. So we are spot zoning. Ag 40, you must have 40 acres or more to be Ag 40. And so many of these parcels are being split down to 20s and 10s and 5, and they're still labeled as Ag 40. In my very short experience here, what I'm telling the homeowners is that you may be zoned in an Ag 40 area, but you have to follow the RR rules because you don't have 40 acres.
Mayor Hagan, I mean, maybe we should ask, one, I would say, when that was done, we didn't have RR, was not a zoning option. So maybe it would be appropriate to ask that the planning commission, or maybe it goes to council, back to just review our whole comprehensive plan. I don't think it's been done for a very long time. And again, we didn't even have rural residential when it was done. So I think to take a look at it to make sure that what we're doing makes sense, and to look at areas specifically, it might be a worthwhile exercise.
Mr. Mayor and council members, that has been addressed with the Planning Commission, and I've asked them if I could bring it to their agenda once I get something in place.
Sure. Great.
Go ahead, Dwayne.
Yeah, I have, and I got a call as it relates to this particular issue. It was early this week, matter of fact, on Monday, and it was a neighboring that our administrator is alluding to, and it has to do with the county and the manure management. So it's heading in that direction, and that happened to be a business, or it had a business, and that business has been vacated or has been retired, and now it reverted to an R1 for tax classification, and that's what would trigger that for the other portion of that land that's vacant to be used as that manure management. So it's all heading in the direction. By next month, it'll be a lot clearer, and it'll go from there. So I think we're heading in the right direction here. That was a request of the Murditzes. If it was R1, there couldn't be animals. By going RR, we have the right of having animals, but then the county still controls the animal units and the manure management. So I'm strongly in favor of it.
Okay, motion been made and second to approve the rezoning from R1 to rural residential and amend the future land use map to be consistent and to make sure it adheres to the county animal unit guidelines. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same. Motion passes. Next item, Bill.
Second on the agenda tonight is the subdivide property and preliminary and final plat. It is the Leaf and Julie Spoor. Property residence is 9054 County Road 47, St. Cloud, Minnesota. They are requesting approval to split 1 acre from approximately 20 acre site, thereby establishing a new property line. Property is zoned Ag 40. Property is 20 acres approximately. The owners are proposing to sell 19 acres south of the house for building purposes. Back in 2010, the Planning Commission and Council approved a qualified minor subdivision of 2 acres split off the 22. So this will now take 1 off the 20, which will remain 19. A public hearing was set. No persons of interest spoke for or against. A couple residents did come up and ask for clarification from the Spoors, which they had to do on the side. You couldn't do it at a public hearing. The Planning Commission is recommending approval of the preliminary and final plat and the split.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I move forward with the consideration of the Planning and Commission recommendation to approve the preliminary and final plat. This is a lot of record from some time ago, as I understand. move for approval.
I'll second that.
Motion been made and second to approve the preliminary and final plats for the spores. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion passes.
Mayor Hagan,
Cindy, do you have
I have one question. Is it one building site per, on Ag 40? You can build one house per 40? Is that?
Plus one is,
In ag.
In Ag 40, that's true.
one primary.
So would this eventually have to be rezoned then?
This is one of them,
Okay.
and this is one of them that I've said they'd have to adhere to our rules.
Okay.
You know, when you hear me say when you act as a zoning administrator, you have broad authority to interpret the zoning laws. And as a rule, zoning administrators don't want to stick their neck out on a limb. And so that's why I've asked Planning Commission in the near future if we can get together to revisit our zoning.
Very good, thank you. The third request is a variance request by owner of David Meyer. His address is 25533 Pleasant Road. Variance is to construct an additional add-on to driveway and a 216-foot paver patio on the property abutting Pleasant Lake, which is a recreational development lake. Impervious surface, if this is approved, will go from 20% to 23.4%. The property is located within the 1,000-foot shoreline overlay district. Property contains 18,255 square feet, more or less. Notices of public hearing were sent out. A public hearing was held. No people of interest or persons came forward to talk for or against. Currently, the owner, previous to building his house, which is a couple years old, had to go through mitigation, rain barrels, gardens. He has more than adequate mitigation already in place. Planning Commission has recommended an approval with the current mitigations already in place. And I believe, Sue, you asked specifically about that.
Yep. I would make a motion to approve as presented.
I'll second.
Motion been made and second to approve the impervious area variance for Dave Meyer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion passes.
Mr. Mayor, before we leave the Planning Commission or something like that, could I ask the chair, we have had a lot of variances these last number of years, particularly as it relates to impervious soil. And once we're done with that, we as a council approve the recommendation that come forward. Is there any type of a trickle or going back to review that a year later and saying, are they in compliance? And maybe it's a byproduct of me being on the watershed district now, but it just seems like we are giving out these variances, but do we have a follow-up? Maybe that's something that could be brought forward on the planning and zoning agenda and talk about that and see if there's something that we could do.
Planning and Zoning Committee is receptive. It's on the agenda to address. And I believe the chair is strongly in favor as well that variances should be the exception to the rule and not the rule. And so that's what we want to talk about as a planning commission. And once we get something together, we'll bring it to the council for action.
That would be appreciated.
Well, just to follow up on Member Willenbrings, I think what you're asking though maybe is when we've approved these and we've asked for mitigation to be in place and some things, do we follow up to ensure that it actually is in place?
That's a really great question.
And I think that's what you were asking.
And that's maybe...
You know, so how do we know in fact that it actually is being done? Otherwise, it really is a detriment.
The initial being done is done through the building permit process. We
Right.
have the building official that's going out to the site, and prior to him providing a certificate of occupancy, he verifies that the mitigation is done. How do you verify that it stays in place? There is no such thing in place to verify that it continues. It would take a neighbor to report it. It's no different than the livestock. How do you know if you have more than 3 units? Somebody's going to have to let us know.
But in the spirit of cooperation to collectively try to make it work out, as long as it's on the agenda and the planning and zoning plan on working on it, seeing what we can do. And if we can't do anything, we can't do anything. But it just seems like there's something that should be done to continue to make sure that they are in compliance. Thank you.
Next item 10, 2016 street repair quotes.
If I could, I'll let Public Works Director Nick take that item. If you go to that tab, you'll find what Nick put together for the streets that he's proposing to patch, and then the bids that came in after that. We have received questions as to why this street, not that street. This is the Public Works under his discretion to provide you recommendations for your approval. Yes, you can add and subtract, but at some point you're going to have to draw a line in the sand and decide how much money you're going to spend. If we add any more feet to this project, we can't do the project without going through a formal bid process. Is that right, Dave?
We're close to 100,000.
Yeah, if we go over 100, add 100 or over 100,000, we got to go through a formal bid process, and we'd prefer not to do that. And so during Nick's report to you, I'd ask you to consider that. I did send you some information regarding requests for Pleasant Road. When is that going to get done? Also, Lake Road has concerns on it. But again, Nick had to pick and choose what he felt, in his opinion, was what needed to be done this year. In this proposal, there is a small section of Pleasant Road on here, and I'm asking that to be removed until such time as council gives clear direction with the support, help of the engineer on what we want to do with Pleasant Road. And I don't think you're ready to make that decision this year. So I would propose that we not do any patchwork patchwork on Pleasant Road. However, Nick feels he can do a good job with air patching to help alleviate a lot of that trouble there. Okay, Nick, sorry.
Oh, that's fine. That pretty much sums it all up anyways. Anything that nope, you're fine. Anything that was, I guess, surveyed or near future, in our near future being put into a street project, we kind of held off on spending the money on patchwork, thinking that we could put a Band-Aid on it with our air patcher for the next year or so. I do believe that if we have any areas that need large repairs, we look more towards a street project than spending the money on this repair work. It's very expensive, and it is basically just a Band-Aid until future work is done. So, just like Marty said, we can add and subtract whatever anybody wishes to do. These are just my recommendations, in my opinion, what we do. These are, I should have provided some pictures, but these are the more dangerous frost heaves. They have big chunks, probably 5-inch by 5-inch of asphalt, that if something heavy or motorcycles go over, they're busting up and they are loose. So that's why I did pick these. These are the worst of the worst areas. These, I mean, we could go on for days with the patchwork, so.
Just for your information, the action will be taken up under 19 council action. So we don't need an action right now. But certainly discussion as to if you want items removed from here or added.
Go ahead, Rick.
I had sent Marty a couple of pictures today on Lake Road. That's why he said other concerns had come up on Lake Road. It was like right across the street from my house, so it's just easy to walk over there. And this road is, according to the minutes that I read, was put in 2005, and it's literally coming off in chunks. It's mainly on the edge of the road, but there's 3 areas within 50 feet that are pretty substantial. And the way I looked at it is if we leave those and don't fix them, it's not going to get better. It's just going to keep getting worse. And they were alligatoring big chunks in pretty substantial area. And the way the road is pretty narrow already, when there's 2 vehicles coming, it just, they have to hit that area and then the pieces go flying.
Mr. Mayor, that begs the question, if that's the case, is that a byproduct of when the sewer line probably went in? And if there's a lack of the shouldering or the substrate that's down below the tar when it went back in, because that tar should not be failing at this stage of the game if it's only been put in a couple of years ago. And so is there any type of, it's long gone past warranty stages or something like that, but certainly to look at, do we need to do some shouldering work first to bring that up to the right height and a compaction and then fill in those tar. Again, not that I'm an expert in that field, but I've shoveled a lot of dirt, so.
My experience with this, Mr. Mayor and council members, is we do not require curb and gutter, which would have alleviated a lot of our shoulder issues, but overall, I think you're okay with that policy, considering you've got 30 square miles of area and how many, what do we got, 60 miles? 60 miles of road. We will look at this in the upcoming budgeting for next year and in the next 5-year budget plan, but our streets are in need of repair.
I do have one question that maybe, Nick, when you have the total amount of areas that you're proposing, and then there's a dollar value that will decide in very short order as to which one of the two blacktop, in any of that, does it include the value that we're going to, or the revenue that we have to put towards the joint powers agreement that we have with St. Joe? So is that over and above? Because we have that 260th, correct?
It does not, this does not include that number.
This does not include it.
No, that is a totally separate, council's already approved that, and that's going forward.
Okay, then we don't have to have it in special bidding, got it. Okay. Thank you.
In case you're wondering, the council has allotted, was it $215,000 or $250,000? And as a rule, you try to strive to put that money aside for one major project, but we're going to be hitting that fund this year. The money's there, but it's not going to be set aside for future. It's going to be used, some of it's going to be used this year.
Yeah.
Administrator Bodie, this is related to the roads, but I know we have an agreement with Main Prairie Township on Grand Lake Road, which is falling apart on their part. Have we had conversations with them? And
No.
I'll put it down and I will.
okay, thank you.
Go ahead,
You're talking, Rick, about that road up there on Lake. I know what you're talking about. This township I work for, we did a road tour this past Sunday. And I don't know if it's the same contractor, but they have issues on several of their tar roads where the tar is not breaking up, it's like peeling away. So I don't know if that mix maybe wasn't made proper by whoever put it down or whatever there. It could be the shouldering too, but it was happening on several roads, so it could be a combination of shouldering. Probably the mix wasn't made properly either. So that's something we got to watch there a little bit.
My suggestion to fellow council members and directed toward Nick, and that was if there is improper shouldering, or if there isn't a base that's rigid enough, that should be addressed first before we would be putting those a few additional ones in, and Nick's had a lot of experience in that. I'm just bringing that out when Rick suggested that there was breaking off at the edge, don't go and throw good money after bad or some of that. So first catch this thing. So that's all that was. I think at this stage of the game, I'd make a recommendation when the time comes that we accept these, and then when it gets to the allocation under council action under a 19 that we go forward. But Nick drives that road a whole lot, along of us do different areas, so why would we second guess those places if Nick has made those recommendations to us? So we don't need council action at this point, but certainly should give him an acknowledgement that we would evince going forward with those when we get to the appropriation side.
Member Wellenbrink, I think you said it very well. In the council action, your action is going to be not to exceed $90,000, giving him the discretion of going ahead and on the places that he wants to patch. However, I'm recommending we do remove Pleasant Road, and we'll note that under item 19.
Okay. Do we need council action to accept? Sorry.
Why can't we take it right now?
It's all under one motion. Then you can, Mr. Mayor, but I put it all under 19. If you open
Along with what else?
If you open tab 19, you'll see there's many other items that you'll be able to add or remove at that time.
Water meters, the dump truck repairs.
Several in there.
All right, so the recommendation is going to be to spend up to $90,000, whichever priority Nick. All right, we can let that one go till 19 then. Number 11, SCADA.
I didn't, it's been noted that I did not get these estimates into your packet today. They just came in, I believe, yesterday or 2 days ago. Are you wanting to look at it, or should we put it off to next month? It's something that needs to be done. We've talked about it for at least the 2.5 months I've been here. If you'd like Nick and Dave to review with you.
What does the acronym stand for?
Go ahead, you two.
Rather than tell you the acronym, because I mix up the two words and I don't want to get it wrong, it's basically a communication between our wells, lift stations, water towers, and a central location.
Now I recall, yeah. All right. So we'll wait with that?
Yeah, as long as we don't have it, let's make that recommendation. But quite frankly, Mr. Mayor and council members, that there's something that was done some years ago when SCH, we went and pinpointed every one of the water main, and a lot of that was GPS, and I don't know if that was ever implemented or something. It's still the same engineering firm, so if this would fall under the SCADA, the upgrade, is that?
No, it wouldn't be related, Councilmember Willenbring. That would be related to the GIS system.
Okay.
And those can be added without
Okay.
trouble.
Well, then we're going to go back to that bill, because I think that the SCH still owes us a whole lot of work that we paid for and never fulfilled at that stage of the game. So before we go forward and upgrade to SCADA, maybe we want to make sure that we have our work done before. And I'm not suggesting that we don't have it, but I'm quite sure that we had a $10,000 provision that we paid for. I was relatively new in the council at the time. I donated the time to find all of those. In the core city was accomplished, but in a new development, there was 80-some homes. And so when I volunteer my time and I didn't get paid, the city didn't get paid, it usually leaves a little spot in my mind. And so we'll check that, and then next month we'll probably go ahead on the upgrade, but I want to have that taken care of beforehand. And I'll work with you during this month.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much, along with our administrator, obviously, or the staff. So we'll just stall it until next month?
Mr. Mayor and council members, Member Tallman had a question last month about SCADA repairs to well 3, and that was specific to that well, upgrading it to a certain point, not including making it work today. I didn't say that very well, did I?
Well, what it does is those are all manually controlled. That upgrade was to put in basically a computer interface in that specific well, so now it's all digitally controlled in that well, but it still doesn't communicate to a main hub. So when you get a call out or an alarm, you have no idea what it's for. Once we establish the SCADA system, you'll have a main hub that you can remotely access, and it'll allow you to get in and see where your issue is. Right now, you're just driving around till you find it. You have to hit all the lift stations and wells. You don't know where the alarm is coming from. So.
That was the question. I had just read it in the minutes prior to me being on the council, so I didn't know what it was for, and I didn't remember where I had read it. So when it was brought up last month, that's why I had asked.
Okay. Next item, water meter finish upgrading.
Mr. Mayor and council members, you've been dealing with replacing your water meters, and it was one of the tasks I was asked to do was to put quotes together to get it done. I don't know, you've been at it for a couple of years. Included in your packet is a memo from Nick with his recommendation. There are two quotes that received. One from DSG, which Nick feels is the lowest quote, and the second one was from HD Supply. My experience is I've worked in great detail with HD Supply census meter reading. However, Rockville meters are already, the majority of them are Itron, which is DSG, and so it makes sense to stay with DSG, and that's the recommendation of Public Works Director and the city engineer. That also is on your council action on 19 tab, and I believe it has a not to exceed number in it of 48,000.
Okay.
Could I ask, where is that coming out of? Is that coming out of the water fund repairs and maintenance?
It'll come out of water and sewer both, being it serves both units. And it'll have to be a CIP item, and more than likely it'll be a budget amendment before the end of the year.
I think you're confusing, one of them is Scadia, which would be both sewer water, but we were just talking about the water meter. And if we're talking water meter, it wouldn't be coming out of the sewer.
Sure, we
enterprise.
charge our sewer rates based on the water.
Oh, okay, so that's how we tie in. Okay, got it.
The reason I was asking where it would come from, because the water fund, you know, the letter that we had from David Drown back in September 30th last year kept showing the water fund, fund balance steadily declining. It was 2011 at $392,000 balance. 2012 it went down to $311,255. 2013 it went down to $273,636. And 2014 it went down to $193,000. So it's steadily declining because the revenues aren't coming in from these special assessments that are not being paid. Good portion of that.
I would say that typically your special assessments are applied to the debt service, which is, not all of them are in the water fund. I can't give you a complete answer, but I would say that your water revenues are not handling the operating expenses of the water fund. I am not done trying to get an analysis of the water, sewer, and debt service funds. As you know, that you want some information regarding Pleasant Lake, and we all do. I'm not there. I just started working on those this week, and we'll get them to you. But where the money's coming from is, yes, it'll have to come out of CIP, which will require a budget amendment, and so half of it is probably 24,000 water, 24,000 sewer.
CIP stands for?
Capital improvements.
Capital improvements.
Okay, next item, 13, Eagle Park control burn.
I believe, let me look. Under tab 13, you have two estimates for the control burn at Eagle Park. Steve's Landscape came in at 1325, and they're the outfit that you've used historically. And I believe Nick is recommending you to going with Steve's Landscape. Certainly the PECs who are actively involved in Eagle Park are recommending Steve's Landscape. There's a little controversy that we need a state permit, being we have an eagle's nest in Eagles Park. It's a disturbance permit, and so I'm getting conflicting information. Is it a recommendation or a requirement? So we're looking into it, but if you approve this, we'll turn it over to Nick to go ahead and take care of once the legal things are all done. And this too is under item 19.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to just get clarification if I could on the Steve, and this was brought up at the, gotta think here, Prairie Trails and Trails and I lost my chain of thought, the Trails and
Trails Advisory?
Trails Advisory, there we go. Trails Advisory, I lost it for a second. But anyways, nothing in here, it looks like it's a great quote, and that was the same quote that was brought forward that evening. As a matter of fact, it looks like it's gone down $100, and that's great. But there's nothing about an insurance. Is that a required, I think that's a requirement, so that would have that liability insurance included?
That's a great point, and I'm glad you brought it up. I'll make sure that that's also included.
And then to add the city as also add insured. I went to a League of Minnesota Cities Trust meeting, and that was drilled into my mind here. So if those two are included that in that base price, and then one of the other things that the city fire chief chatted with over the weekend on another gathering, and he said that if there was an opportunity to get some of the younger fire department members that have not been involved in a controlled burn to somehow or another work in conjunction with or something like that for training on a job. And I don't know if that was ever brought up at the Steve Landscaping Services, but I do believe it was shared with, or I shared it with the Prairie Restoration entity. And And so I think it would be wise for us, if it's not a cost to the city to have fire department members in the way of Steve, but at least to work collectively and to appease the fire department members, those that have never been in a controlled burn before. It's probably wise to have that. And
This information has been passed on to Chief Rodney, and he'll take care of it as he deems fit.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Dwayne, I'd like to add to that now, when this person does this burning, usually a lot of your burns take place late in the day. The county did a burn early in the day, they had the manpower there. But if you will, on fire department members, we have to remember that we have 19 or 20 members, and all those probably 15 have day jobs.
Right.
So that's the issue, that if you have the manpower there, just to make you aware that the time of day, the newer members, I've done it, we did that several years ago, we did a controlled burn that they taught us, most of us, how to do that out there in Eagle Park. But the thing is, the manpower is the time of day, and Rodney, I'm sure, agrees they should be nice to know training. It's real simple training, simple to do. But they just got to remember to get the people to do it, and everybody's busy, and everybody's busy or they're going to school, so
Well, last fall, when the control burn was virtually going to happen, and then a wind change or something had stopped, there was great communication. I got, as a council member, I got a call or an email, something to the effect to alert me. I don't know if the others did, but if that was the case, we can't, it has to be subjective at this stage of the game that it's probably going to work out right. But the spirit of having the fire department, that's what I was getting at. If we can get the fire department members to at least be part of this here, if it works out in timing and all of that, Don.
it works out for the individuals.
Thank you.
It is 24-hour wind sensitive.
Yes.
When the company finds the wind is at the right direction, that's when they're going to do it. And they will notify the city when that happens. And we will notify Rodney.
Thank you.
Item 14, citywide cleanup with TKI, May 7th, 8 to noon.
I think that's information only. I sent out an email that the cost to the city on this was to partner up with the cities of Richmond, Cold Spring, and Rockville in conjunction with TKI to have a community-wide cleanup. There are some items on there that is free, such as compost and brush. So I think it's a great opportunity for the community early in the year to get our communities cleaned up, as opposed to putting them in our ditches. It would be nice if we could collectively put them out at TKI. So this was information only, Mr. Mayor.
Next item, dump truck. Nothing in the tab. Is that on hold?
Mr. Mayor, it's my understanding you authorize, what item number are we on? Because
15?
15? I don't think I have that on the agenda, so Nick, you're going to have to take it over.
It's fine. Number of months ago in the fall, we got approval from you guys to sell our orange International dump truck. We sat that over at Maine International all winter and had not any interest in it. So we brought it back here. We went to DOT it because we were going to use it, and they want about $3,000 to repair it. So we either need to take that off the bill. We've got it parked out here for Gene and I to pick at. I think it needs only about $1,000 worth of parts, and we can keep it and use it. Or there's just kind of an update to where we're at, bringing that back to you guys. We can keep it and use it, which is kind of what we're looking at now. There's really no interest in a 25-year-old dump truck that's pretty wore out. So we might end up keeping it and fixing it ourselves. Just an update.
If we get rid of it, my advice to Nick was once you get rid of something, it's hard to get it back. It's easier to keep something than to go to council and ask for something new. So maybe this is also under item 19 to spend up to, not to exceed it, well, I don't remember, you'd have to look $1,000 for repairs.
Okay. Item 16, Lions Park mowing.
Mr. Mayor and council members, I sent you an email in regards to Public Works is asking you to consider, should we consider letting the grass go wild east of the ball diamond at Lions Park? According to Nick, it is extremely time consuming to mow. And so that was the reason for this request. Since that time, I've received a little bit of information from various people. Number one of it is 2 of your Parks Committee are strongly recommending that you continue to mow it. One of the council members presented me with the idea that if you let it go wild, we may have gopher troubles, as we do out at Eagle Park, and that we wouldn't want to see. It was just a thought. I think maybe if you agree, maybe we just cut back the mowing from once a week to once every 2-3 weeks at the Public Works discretion, just to try to cut back on the amount of time and money we're spending on it.
I got a question. We had, for the last 3 years that I know of, hired that out, subbed it out to part-time summer help.
That's
Still employees,
true.
still. It wasn't outsourced, it was our equipment and it was our
Right, but
part-time.
it was in the park and rec budget, and it was part-time summer help.
Right.
That I think it was Judy's son that did it a couple of years, somebody else did it last year, I think.
That is a true statement.
So why are we gonna go away from that?
Again, time, expense. I've not been here very long, but these guys got an awful lot of work to do.
But that's what I'm talking about, summer help was doing it, not,
Summer help can
Right.
help in other areas
We
as well.
could use him in other areas instead of having him on the mower for 1 day a week mowing that field. It would give us his time to work in other areas, other park areas.
I think, Mr. Mayor and Council, my thinking is from the response is that I would encourage you not to let it go wild, but just maybe not mow it every week.
The council agreed, let them try mowing it less frequently and let it
I
go a
guess I
little
have a
higher.
question, and
see what
I'm
happens.
asking because I don't know how often is it used and what's the impact? 'Cause I think, we only have a short summer in Minnesota, so if the people are using the park, to not have it usable doesn't make sense to me, but I don't know how much it's being used.
I happen to be fortunate that Lions Park is in my backyard, and it's a beautiful park. And we bought our house there 6 years ago, and for the first couple of years, it was used really heavily, 2 nights a week, this area in particular for soccer. Well, since that time, they're not there anymore. They're now in town here.
Okay.
And so, you'll see somebody out there running their dog, training their dog. The trail gets used all the time.
Okay.
It's a shame that beautiful ball diamond is not being used. Some of you have asked me to look into if the city of Waite Park or St. Cloud need extra ball field, and I can certainly do that. I don't see a lot of activity in the field itself. But it's still a beautiful park. I'm not saying let it, I think I have some concerns about letting it go wild since I've gotten information about the gophers, and I don't want to see the park go bad.
Everyone okay with letting them cut back a little bit and see what happens?
I would just comment that I walk the park pretty regular, almost on a daily basis, and I've heard in the past from people that I ran into when it wasn't cut, when it was getting longer, they were very concerned that when it was going to get cut. So I would venture to say that you're going to hear feedback. And I had just shot out the email this morning to a few people, and that's where Scott had replied, the chair of the Park and Rec, said, obviously Park and Rec would not agree with not mowing Lions Park. Not sure if anyone would stay on the Park and Rec board if the city stops maintaining its parks. We have managed to maintain this park for 30 years, not sure why they want to stop now. So,
Sounds like you might have misinterpreted, though. You're not talking about not mowing the entire park, this is part of it, but
no, he couldn't have misinterpreted because I just sent out what was sent to us.
Mr. Mayor and council members, what Rick just shared was from an individual. There was no Park and Rec meeting that had any talk about the pros and cons, so that has to be erased from your mind in the thought process. It's an individual, it's not a council member, he's a member of the Park and Rec. So as an individual, as a Park and Rec, that's all right, but you can't go and try to influence it at this stage of the game. It's a council decision, and when you're alluding to, and the words were, when is the hay baler coming in? And there was 6 council members back in those days. 4 of us that are here right now were here at the time when it was brought forward, and by an individual that was out there. May have even been a council member if I remember right. So the story is long and tedious, but we as a council today need to make a decision, and I think the mayor hit it right on the head. We as a council give the directive to Nick that says, if we want to try to save some money, cut back a little bit, but continue to groom it. We're not into a nature park out there. If it was a nature park, we would be calling it a nature park. So it's a Lions Park, but for us to go and cut back on the amount of mowing on there, that's a decision that we should accept the recommendation of Nick. So I'm with you on that one, Jeff, all the way. Just let them decide, but try to cut back on it.
If I could add that he take particular consideration to holidays, that 4th of July and so on,
Yeah.
that it for sure gets mowed there.
Yeah.
Another thing, I think, we got that grass there, if we could get more use on it. Several years ago, there was always soccer playing there, people running over the grass, and your grass doesn't grow as fast as it would normally. But I mean, every 2 weeks, if it's dry in the summer, for sure, that grass doesn't grow fast. I don't cut my lawn that often, I don't water it either.
Yeah.
If it's green, it's green. But when you see like the ball field is not being utilized that much, and there's thousands of dollars stuck in the ball field over the past years, so the best thing, the way to improve it is you get more use in the parks, and that's not for us on the council to decide, that's the people that live in the area that want to use it. But I think we can look at like trying to cut back on the mowing. That's a lot of time and money spent to cut grass, so we
Let's
can
give
look at it.
Let's just give it a try. We can
Yeah.
always reverse it just as
Right.
quickly as we changing
Right.
it tonight, so.
Right.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, one last quick comment that the administrator brought forward, and I think it's relevant. Some years ago, there was an active league from St. Cloud that was using that area as a structured not volleyball, but soccer. That league dissipated, that pipe was laying out there for a number of years. Up until about a year ago, our city staff worked hard to resurrect those. The Lions Club went forward, bought the thing, and it's got a new home right now, and it's almost 100% approved by the people that are there. And the last one we're working on. So thank you.
One last comment. If we do cut back on the mowing, please be aware that Pleasant Lake fireworks are done in that park.
Sure.
I don't remember the day. I think it's the day before the 4th, is it usually the 3rd?
Yeah.
So we wouldn't want long grass there.
Right. But the flexibility,
Fireworks.
yeah. I think
All
that'll
right,
take care of itself.
let's move, guys.
Thank you. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, just so you remember, you have 16B. I didn't want to cut you short, but 16B, I'll turn that over to Nick as well.
Okay,
It's under your tab, if you'll look.
go ahead, Nick.
16B, I'm looking for and asking you to approve of a drag that will hook up to our Kubota tractor's 3-point hitch. It is a grader, leveling kit, Scarfire, which will turn over and pull the weeds out of the ball fields. It does a number of different jobs. Currently, we're using an old chunk of metal to drag around and grade out the fields for the softball and the baseball, and we're hand digging and raking weeds and turf and everything else out of the warning tracks, and the fields that don't get used as much require a lot of maintenance. This is just a tool to help us and speed things up immensely. It was it'll be the exact picture of the 3-point tractor with the grade leveling bar. I know it's expensive. We're asking for $1,800 to spend, which is in the Parks and Rec mower and purchases budget. So I'm just looking for your approval on this. This would be a long time piece of equipment for the city. I don't know how, I would guess it lasts 15 years or longer. So, thank you.
If you would choose to approve of this, that would be under item 19 as well, we added.
Any questions, anybody?
I do have a comment, and that is, for many, many, many years, great parents out here worked very hard. Up until this past year, the summer rec coordinator and the teams that were out there used a tractor and a drag to do it. I don't know where the transition went, so that we now have Public Works Director working out there to do the drags of the field prior to the games or something like that. So that's a major change from what we've had in the past. Park and Rec had always had volunteers, including the park summer rec coordinator, and that was Mr. Brian Durkee. He's no longer here. He's retired in Arizona, or he'd still be doing it, I assure you. So if there's a means before we invest in this here, we should really look at the fact that that's a change from the policy that we've had in the past.
Okay,
$1,800, is that what I'm looking at here?
correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, we're going to take care of that in 19, I guess. Item 17, Minnesota DNR Water Supply Workshop. Rick wants to attend that. We don't have any literature on it, just want to...
Yeah, I had brought back the packet that I got an extra packet that I had given to Marty for Public Works and that to look at. They were tied up in the other meeting that Dwayne had went to that he's going to report on next. But I went there, and it's basically, they were explaining that each city, and we have been informed that we have to, fill out this water supply plan. It's looking to reduce, demand reduction, reduce water use. And a lot of the area cities were all there, and they were telling different things that they're doing to reduce water use and account for unaccounted water. And I explained that we have done a lot of that already in Rockville, where most of the unaccounted water has already been accounted. We were metering when the ice rink was being done. I believe all the ones that are taking water from the street sweepers and that, they're getting metered,
Yep.
right? Yeah, so I was explaining that, and I picked up a lot of these packets where somebody can put this tablet in their toilet to see if their toilet flapper is leaking. They had a bunch of them there, and I thought, well, we'll bring some here to have that available. And they were very open to working with the city if you need any help, and along with rural water. They did explain that there was a grant available through the Minnesota Department of Health, and when I went on to the site, that application needed to be in by the end of March, so that was kind of, it was a $10,000 grant, and they said a lot of cities got it without any problem, but they told me on April 13th, and the deadline was the end of March, so didn't help.
All right, thanks, Rick. Any question?
Can I just ask a question on that? Did they talk about the whole conservation rates or any of that as part of this?
No, they were saying a lot of cities do have either way. They have the uniform rate or they have the tiered rates, and their main goal is to reduce water use. But we still don't even know how they're going to monitor if our rates are effective. I haven't gotten that back yet. I've been asking. So, what their process is to determine if we have reached reduction. They haven't decided yet.
That's a two-edged sword. We can certainly appreciate being a conservative for conservation, but at the same time, that's our bloodline is sales of water and sewer. That's how we pay our bills. In the previous community that we came from, we certainly didn't want to discourage manufacturing to cut down on water, because the more water they used indicated their sales were up. And so we didn't penalize manufacturing. We had a different tier rate than what you have here, but when time allows, I'm certainly willing to review different options for the council to consider that would be more friendly, favorable to manufacturing, because we don't want, in my opinion, we don't want to penalize them.
Okay.
Okay. Next item, League of Minnesota Cities Lost Control Workshop. Dwayne.
I had the privilege of being out there representing the city as a council member. We had two of our public works directors that were there getting certified. Is that the right choice of words, Nick? And a side note there, contrary to where I would have envisioned about the middle, they were sitting up in the second front seat, and they were very astute, a lot of great questions that they asked, and so I was extremely proud of the fact that we had some great people there. Nick said, no, Gene said the reason he sits so close is because he can't hear real well, so I should have been sitting up there right with him. Then on the other side, we had one of our staff people, part-time, was also there, and it had the administrative track, and then there was a police tracking, and then a plenary sessions, and then Public Works, and I kind of floated between them. I spent quite a bit of time in the afternoon on the agenda, or agents for insurances and things of that change. And one of the things I found out as of January 1st, 2016, which was just recently. The League of Minnesota Cities Insurance Trust has agreed to change a policy, and it alludes back to some dialogue that we had when Rena no longer was with us, and should we have done an audit and all of that, and that's behind us now. But we talked about should we or should we not have a fidelity bond to include that if you request it for no additional fee. So I did share that with Marty. I said, Marty, please, I don't think it takes council action, but if it did, we certainly will. Please add that to our insurance trust, no additional premium, to automatically have a fidelity bond insurance for key people that would work with it. So it's great to be there without finding extra dollars. So that kind of summarized it. It was from an all-day event, and worked out great. We had great participation. It's very inexpensive, $20 per person unless you're getting accreditation, and we need to have accredited individuals for their licensures for sewer and water. So great event, great event.
Mr. Mayor and Council, to answer your question, Member Willenbring, the city has coverage up to $250,000 in a fiduciary bond.
Okay, very good. And then the other one that was stressed, and I think we do that, is the annually when we have our, there's a technical thing to go from 500,000 per occurrence, and then we have a 1,500, and it goes up to 200,000. The league has up to 200,000, so we waive that, correct? And then it allows us, so if somebody came to us, it wasn't going to stop somebody getting just 500,000. They could go all the way to 2 million, correct?
Annually, the council has to decide whether or not you wish to waive the tort limits, and that's what you're referring to.
Yeah, and that has happened, correct, for us? Or
we choose not to as a rule.
Okay.
And I'd have to look at yours specifically. I spoke out of line there. My history is that we don't waive the tort limits.
Yes, and that would be the appropriate, in my thought process, that would be to not waive that tort max. That's it. Thank you.
Next item is 18B, soil, water, Sauk River watershed, Mill Creek.
Okay. Last month, I believe, I very briefly shared with you that there's going to be an opportunity for some of the people here in the Rockville area, along with the residential or with the agricultural rural landowners. So there was a joint, on April 7th, we had a gathering out here. There was 21 some people that were in a U-shape. It was orchestrated by the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, Sauk River Watershed District, and the Soil and Water Conservation District of the county, and it was hosted here at the council chambers, and then a multitude of people that wrapped around. One of the key people that was here, Scott Lucas. Scott Lucas is the regional manager for the MPCA, and this was the first of 4 pilot programs that are being created, and the reason that the Mill Creek Nutrient Reduction Project was selected because of the high E. coli account that's brought forward. So anyways, it's about a 3-year commitment for the city, and then the cheerleaders or the glee club or whatever we're going to call that group that was there. We had representatives from council, Mr. Tallman and myself. We had Paul Worth was here from the Park and Rec group. We had, let's see, Jerry Tipple was here from the Planning and Zoning, and I believe that, and then Tootie is our local historian, also known as our local historian, and I believe Marty was in and out. He was in the middle of his audit stuff, and then of the primary landholders that are upstream to share with them the potential. And Tootie has a great article in the back page of the Cold Spring Record for somebody that wants to see the total entourage of what happened. A great day for the city of Rockville, really was. Extremely proud. And it's a 3-year commitment, and any soft costs, Mr. Administrator, should be contained and forwarded to the Sauk River Watershed District.
Okay, next item 19. Or do you want to explain how we're?
If you could go to tab 19, which somehow I just lost. Okay, so the council action, item 1, is an accounting transfer only. You have money sitting in the EDA fund. That money should have probably been moved when the EDA turned the building over to the city X number of years ago. So that's all that is doing, moving it from Fund 209 to the debt service fund of 304. 304 is your debt service fund for City Hall and Fire Hall. Number 2 is a citywide cleanup for advertising. Number 3, I provided you information. Apparently there has been interest in coming up with a number that the general government could pay to the water and sewer fund for previous years of unbilled services. So I spent a day putting those numbers together. I believe I sent you an email, an explanation of how I came up with it. I feel fairly confident those are reasonable numbers. Are they exact? No, you won't get exact, being we didn't have meters operating at that time. But if you wish to do something, this is the way to do it. And I believe one of you suggested this would be one way to help pay for replacing those water meters. Item number 4 is the street patching not to exceed $90,000. Finish changing out the old water meters not to exceed $48,000. Dump truck repairs, approximately $1,000. That was in parts. Nick and Jean are willing to try to handle it on their own. They feel they have the ability to do that. Item number 7 from your additions to the agenda would be certified an outstanding utility bill to the county. That's in your packet. Under item 19, you'll find that information. I think it's $408. Item 8 would be acknowledging the Kawasaki lease agreement that the fire department does. That's an ongoing annual lease. I felt comfortable signing it, but I put it in here to make sure I get your stamp of approval. Number 9, if you choose to add it, would be the $1,800 for the drag at the park. So you may at this time add or remove any one of these item numbers.
You said the Kawasaki lease agreement's been signed already, right?
Yes, sir.
I would make a motion to approve items 1 through 9.
I'll second that motion.
Motion been made and
Second,
second to
if I could,
approve
we
all
have-
9 items. Further discussion, go ahead, Dwayne.
We have up until 6 right here, which are the 7, 8, and 9, and that was from the tri-cable and that was on the additional.
Number 7 was $408 owed to Tri-City Cable. Number 8 was Kawasaki lease agreement, which already been signed. So
Signed.
that's basically just a rubber stamp, right?
Yep.
7 is the outstanding utility bill. That would be the second item under your tab 19.
$400.28.
Thank you.
Okay.
Number 8 is acknowledging the lease agreement with Kawasaki.
And
Number 9 is the new item that Nick brought before you, the $1,800 for the drag.
Okay.
We have on the floor a motion and a second. Any further questions, Glenn?
I do have under item number 3, under the transfer of general city hall to water sewer, and then the next item and the third item, and one of them is ballpark, one of them is the maintenance, and one of them the city hall. And, you know, I'm not here to judge the question, but there's 2 other key ingredients that I think that would have some merit, and I don't know how to substantiate that. Fire department picks up water from the core city when they go out on fire, and how do we come up with that value, if it should be in there, I don't know. And then the other one is the ice skating arena, you know, for many, many years, and in the last year or 2 it hasn't, so it's just food for thought.
I think it's a good point, Member Wellenring. However, you'll see that the general account is City Hall. That would include Fire Hall. I did not, you know, you want me to try to figure something out, I sure can, but that one sure.
Well, the time of how much time that we would spend from staff to try to articulate, I just felt that, at least for discussion purposes, do we need to want to go back and look at, should there be an additional line item, or is that just making an assumption? Because how do you find out how much the fire department used and how much, and for how many years back and all of that?
These assumption included fire hall usage, so I don't think that number of 4118 is going to go up for the general fund. You'd just be allocating some of it from the department of 41940 to 41220. So it's
And
general fund
I just want to
dollars.
acknowledge, I appreciate that you did the work and went back and looked, so.
Thank you.
On the drag, Nick, right now we're using the drag to drag the infield, and I think you mentioned something about parking lot, to keep weeds down in the parking lot of the ball field?
Yep. The
Both
both,
Pleasant Lake and here?
correct. Warning track, gravel parking lots, stuff like that.
What would you estimate how many hours a week or a month you spend?
Well, we have games. It's usually an hour per game on each field. So here, that's 2 hours a week, and then a couple times a week to try and keep the weeds down on off use. So from summertime until fall, any growing season, to try and turn them over and drag them to beat the weeds down. If they're not being used by the people, we try and drag them over. I don't know.
Okay. All right.
If that helps, I guess.
I'd like to comment, I think last couple of times on a major part of the field parking, we've sprayed for dandelions, but you don't necessarily want to go on your infield along your warning track and use some chemical spray with kids. You have to plan it accordingly for when to be using it. So this here will dig the roots out and everything. It'll be a little more efficient, I would believe, than trying to use a chemical.
And if I could make a comment to what I had, or add to what I stated earlier, the maintenance was just the field specific. It wasn't the parking lot or the grading, and so this was news to me, so that if that's the case that we would be using it for, then I certainly would probably change my thought process, because quite frankly, we don't want to have weeds growing up in the parking lot out Pleasant Lake, even if the Pleasant Lake area, even if we have limited amount of ball field activity at this stage of the game. So I was just, the earlier comment I was making is the game itself between the games, that we did that in-house. So.
All right, motion been made and second to approve all 9 items. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion passes.
Good dialogue.
Should we take care of these other items before we recess for closed meeting?
What's
20
left?
You got 22,
No, that's for after.
that's for after, okay. All 22, 23 or?
You're at number 20 right now.
20, okay, open forum.
We had added administrative correspondence in there.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Yep, you got it.
You know, what I did when I see that title administrator's correspondence, the entire agenda is my correspondence. That's why I took it out. And so what I don't have on this agenda is the last item, and that's other. And that's where that could have been. So if you have a question that I haven't added, go ahead and ask.
Well, I was just thinking that, being that you're fairly new in the city and we just went through the audit, I thought maybe you'd have a little update of.
Oh, thank you. That'd be great. Those are general questions you can ask me at any time. The audit went absolutely phenomenal. I wish I could take some credit for it. I cannot. Your finance director, Judy, did a phenomenal job. It's just amazing, the amount of time that she put in from the time that your previous administrator left until last week, Friday, at 1 o'clock, she finally left this office early. And she's going to be taking some well-deserved time off. She's built up quite a bit of time, of unused time, and she deserves it. If you get a chance to talk to her, I think she deserves your appreciation as well as the community's. That is a huge job what she did to handle the finance director's position and administrator's position. I can tell you that on Monday, February 1st at 8 o'clock, I walked in for my first day. Zoning has not stopped since 9 o'clock that morning. It's unbelievable. And that's good for us. There are good things that are in the works for us. But it is a little overwhelming. but Judy did phenomenal.
I just want to also publicly acknowledge Judy, and if you can pass on our gratitude and thanks, because I agree, I think she did a phenomenal job carrying on, and it is really appreciated.
Thank you.
And if I could just ask of the administrator, there will be follow-up dialogue with the auditor coming with their reporting to our council then, I would imagine, coming up soon?
Sure, that requires, the annual audit requires your approval, so that's on the calendar.
That's on the calendar. Very good.
Okay, open forum?
Just one other thing for Marty. With Wayne Laudenbach last month, when he brought up the franchise fees that some cities are using for road repairs,
I did have that on the agenda, and I must have, it skipped. Absolutely. I'm familiar with franchise fees. We established them in my previous community. We did not use them for street repairs. We did use them for street lighting is what it was going to be set aside for. But I will put some information together for you to consider with the help of the city engineer. I think if you want to try, give me some idea what percentage you would like to pay through franchise fees, because even 50%, I have a feeling you're going to have a mob on your hands if you add that franchise fee to their utility bill. We added $1 per franchise fee, and the phone rang off the hook. And so $1 in Richmond at 800 meters every month. They did not appreciate it. It took a little bit to get over it. It's a good tool, but people realize it's another tax.
That's right.
So we'll put some numbers together for you. I'm glad you brought that up. I did have it on the agenda, and then through you notice it's pretty long, and it got really wild here in the last couple of days with all these additions, so it got omitted somehow, but I will put it on the agenda again.
I think it would be helpful to look at that in the context of a plan of looking at what are our roads that need repairing, when do they, like some kind of schedule and structure, how much are we looking at? Because I think it also puts it in a context of what's needed, because whether it's a franchise fee, there's going to be some assessments, but frankly, a portion of it ends up, everybody's paying it, right? Whether we do another bond issue for roads or whatever, and then that gets added. So, it comes out one way or the other, but I think just so we could provide more information in a context about what's really out there and what kind of costs we're looking at, I think would be helpful. Yep. And I know you're new, so when we get to it, but
we're talking with Nick and Dave, the city engineer. I believe you did a road tour last year, and Dave has provided a 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 road plan. It's not pretty. I mean, you consider Pleasant Road is that a mile and a half at $350,000, and you have 60 miles. So it's huge. It really is huge, but we need to provide you with some concrete numbers and a plan for you to consider. We understand that.
Okay. Thank you.
The special assessment policy that we have, where a special assessment gets assessed for a city road, your tax dollars are already paying part of the other 70%, and then a homeowner can get up to 30% of that only for a city road. And they don't benefit any more than if somebody on a county road,
no, I hear you.
is paid.
So I think all of those things are things we have to take into consideration.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what would be helpful to know even is how many people live on a county road only when we're looking at this.
If I could just add to the comments that Sue, and that's strategic planning, short-term and long-term, and we both have talked about it in the past, and I agree. I couldn't agree more with Member Palmer that council members come and council members go, but the roads are here for a long period of time. That's the biggest one, and as we progress forward, we have to have a game plan and how to fix it, and the roads took a back seat when the two facilities were built.
Right.
We're not going to tear down these two buildings, and we're working feverishly along with the two recreational lakes that had a major hit to a lot of those residences. So it's time for us to focus again on the roads, and it should be planned. And I hope that we're in agreement or something like that. That's what I hear the most at this stage of the game when I'm out and about is the roads. Okay, so we're in agreement. It's just a matter of the plan and how. And it's going to cost money.
Anybody wish to speak? Open forum?
Hi, my name is Wayne Sanders. I live on Pleasant Road. My wife and Melinda and I live over there. They built a house recently. Just want to talk a little bit about the road that you guys are talking about not repairing, and also the fact that there's an issue with water on that road. It sounds to me like there's some problems financing this whole water project in the water tower. I don't want that to be leveraged against the road being repaired, because I see those things kind of go hand in hand. There was a survey sent out recently or last year. I think 6 people were for water, the rest were against. I know council doesn't act upon the surveys, they just use that information. I think you folks up here do a good job representing the city and try to do the best things for the city. That, I think, is an indication of what the people on that road think about the water recommendation. We all have wells. I just spent $5,000 on a new well where I built my house. So I just want to make it, get it on record that I'm not for the water, but I would like the road repaired. Because the road is in rough shape, and the people that have gone down the roads, I'm sure they have to look at all the different roads and the amount of money that's available. We also have chunks of tar coming up on our road. It's in tough shape, and I would like it repaired. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Now we're going to put in recess, city council meeting, go into closed meeting for attorney-client privilege discussion on pending litigation. We're going to meet over here.
Is Attorney Ripple here?
Yeah, Adam's in the back, yeah.
Yep. Do you want to go in there right away, or do you want to take a 5-minute break for the chamber to clear? It's up to you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Want to take a 5 minutes? All right.
Does it take a motion to go into recess? It takes a motion to go into recess and sequester, I believe?
I don't think so.
And then-
It's the mayor's meeting to run unless somebody
Okay.
opposes, then it takes
Yeah.
2 motions a motion and a second to overrule them. So he can close or
Okay.
recess the meeting.
So the public is dismissed.